Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Lake Linganore Association sponsored County Candidate Forum. We have with us tonight our current county executive, Jan Gardner, our outgoing chair of the Frederick County Legislative Delegation, Kathy Afzali, candidate for Sheriff, Carl Bickel, candidate for County Council District 2, Steve McKay, candidate for County Council District 2, Lisa Jarosinski, writing candidate for County Council District 2, Tony Schmelik, our current County Council representative for District 4, Jessica Fitzwater, County Council candidate for District 4, Jimmy Trout, Council candidate at large, Phil Dacey, candidate at large, Danny Farrar, candidate at large, Kai Hagan, candidate at large, Susan Reeder Jesse, and the current County Council Chair, Bud Otis. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for our staff for putting together this great event. Just a few rules for the audience. No signs and be civil. For the candidates, most questions, with the exception of the law enforcement topics, most questions will go to all of the candidates, so we'll do our best to get through this. We will have time limits, so please bear with us with that. There are a few rules to go over. One, if you are mentioned by another in another's remarks, you will be given an opportunity to respond, and that would include something implied, such as my opponent says or my opponent does. So we want to try to be fair and give people opportunities to respond to statements of that nature. In addition, each candidate has a Lake Linganore challenge flag in front of them. So if you...
That's awesome!
If during someone else's remarks, and anyone can do this to anyone else, regardless of the office or district, etc., if you object or want to challenge something that someone else says, each candidate will have one opportunity to throw their challenge flag. Do this at the conclusion of the remarks to which you want to respond. You'll be given a minute to state your challenge, and the other person will be given a minute to respond. Rick and I will then decide whether or not the discussion goes forward or move on. So, everybody good? Thanks again, welcome. We'll get started with our questions. Every one of these that I've been to, they've gone in alphabetical order, so I think to start we'll start at Z and come backward. Okay. First question, we'll start with the county executive candidates, and then we'll go to through the districts and to the at-large candidates. Starting off with County Executive Gardner. As you know, the completion of Lake Linganore has been stalled several times for many reasons. The community is 50 years old, but still only half complete. The DRA signed recently in 2014 outlines a clear pathway to the completion of the community. Will you support the completion of Lake Linganore PUD as defined by this DRA, or would you take steps to stop or change it in any way? And that's a 90-second response.
All right, well, we have about 14 developments in Frederick County that are contracted with developer rights and responsibilities agreements. Some of them are 20 years long, some of them are 30 years long. I'm not quite sure how long this particular one is, but we have challenged several of them in court. They have stood up in court, so I will honor the contract that is in place with the developers of Lake Linganore. The only way someone can change that is if there's mutual agreement to do that. And for something that's 20 or 30 years long, a developer may want to change what they do as well as have the county have issues and interest to change what they do. So it would have to be by mutual agreement. And the only other way is if there's a public health or safety issue. If it is essential to public health and welfare, the development can be stopped. But for the time period that it is stopped, that time tolls at the end of that contract. So if you do have a stoppage for some reason, for instance, you don't have water and sewer would be a really good reason. There may be other reasons. Some people think if schools get to a particular level of overcrowded, nobody has defined what that level might be, whereas a public health and welfare issue, then that time would be added to the end of that agreement. So if you took a pause for a year would be added beyond the closure date of that.
Just in time. Thank you. Ms. Afzali.
Oh, I guess we don't stand, we sit. It's a sitting thing, okay. Well, good evening, everyone.
This isn't a rock concert, it's a
It's not-
country show.
That's okay, because when I stand, someone will say, stand up, Kathy. So, good evening. I'm Delegate Kathy Afzali, and just a little correction, I am no longer the chair of the Frederick County delegation. I thankfully passed that torch on to Delegate Bill Folden, and he's doing a super job, and I'm thankfully free of that herding of cats. So, with regards to the DRRA and to Lake Leonora, surprisingly enough, the current county executive and I agree on a lot of issues with regards to development, but we do disagree and differ on some points. And one of those points I want to message is that if we do diverge from the DRRA, oftentimes the county gets sued and can be sued by the developer or a developer. And unfortunately, Frederick County gets sued quite often, it seems, in the last few years in several different ways. And this ends up costing a tremendous amount of extra money to the county. So we do have to honor our agreements. We cannot dishonor our agreements because there are businesses and developers that have planned to develop and to do those things. The problem with development in Frederick County right now, it is tremendously high density. And this is a challenge that we have right now that needs to be addressed going forward. And I think I am the right person to address this. Part of the challenge that we've had is that the state has come down with regulations. Dang, that was 2 minutes? That was the shortest 2 minutes. Do I get to challenge the challenge? How does that work?
Our first challenge of the evening. Okay, you get one challenge, so this is your chance.
I thought you got to have a challenge every time someone mentioned your name.
Okay, well you, okay.
I didn't say
Pardon.
You did say my name.
Okay,
current county executive.
That would be me. Okay, so that counts.
I stand corrected. 1 minute to County Executive York.
Okay, all I want to say is that the county has not been sued to any great degree under my administration. When I came into office, there were 22 lawsuits. About 6 of them involved DRAs. So we did pursue those. And we now have about 3 left out of those 22 that we've been dealing with. So I have not added lawsuits to the county or expense for lawsuits to the county. Thank you.
And the 30-second rebuttal?
Well, does this count as my?
No, you get 30 seconds to respond.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't get to finish my point, but I will say that the county has been sued. We want to make sure that people who have invested in Frederick County have certainty. And that's what people don't have right now, and that's what developers don't have. So we have to find some kind of peaceful solution to the development issue in Frederick County. Right now, there's a lot of tension between developers and the current administration. And I'd like to somehow, although again, the county executive and I agree on a lot of things with development, I think there's a way to find a peaceful, happy medium with these issues.
Thank you. Same question to, we'll start with our council at large candidates in reverse alphabetical order. So that would mean Councilmember Otis.
Well, we have to honor the agreements of previous administrations. tried to do that. We haven't had any new developments approved in our 4 years thus far, and I don't see any happening in short order. So I don't see it being a big issue. If everybody agrees and sticks to the plan that they were asked to do, I think we're fine. It's where you get into exceptions and people want to start changing them that causes the problem. Otherwise, you know, they're a legal document and they need to be honored as such, and I haven't been involved in any challenge to that at this point.
Thank you. Susan Reeder Jesse?
Thank you. Yeah, I think 50 years is long enough. I would support to honor this contract for many reasons. I believe the aspiration of this is 2038, correct me if I'm wrong, but the information I did research on the PUDs and the DRRAs, which includes all the way up to the libraries. I'm a move forward kind of person. I think we should honor promises that we've made in the past. There's lots of issues to move forward with, and so I would focus on them. It's time to finish. This concept won an award in the 70s, and it's something that we should complete, and it should be a showcase in this area. So that's how I feel.
Thank you. Kai Hagan?
Well, I've been involved in Lake Linganore related issues and Newmarket area related issues, from the Newmarket Region Plan to the fight to save the Indian Cave back in 2004 for a long time. I spent a year and a half as a county commissioner negotiating with Clark Development and coming to an agreement with the developer and with Commissioner Gardner's support for a long-term DRRA that would have enabled them to move forward, set a lot of things in stone, and preserve 700 acres of forest in the area permanently as well. A lot of other things that we don't have time to talk about. That did not pass because Commissioner Charles Jenkins at the time said he was 95% of the way there. We didn't have a third vote, it didn't happen. And the next Board of County Commissioners signed a DRRA that I don't like. I think there's a lot of things about it that I don't like. That doesn't mean I don't respect and honor the process and the law, and that I wouldn't support fulfilling it. However, as people who live in Linganore know, this has gone through a lot of changes, multiple bankruptcies, different plans, all sorts of things over time. And even though it needs to be a mutual re-engagement of the DRRA in order to look at changing it, it is entirely possible that market changes, other changes that they want to make in the plan would create an opportunity to put it back on the table and to talk about some of the things that we can do it better, so that we're not clear-cutting hundreds of acres of forest, mass grading it and putting in McMansions right next to each other in a way that is absolutely not part of the original vision that so many people like about Linganore. Times change, market changes, it's not easy, but it's an important community. It's the largest, earliest PUD in the county. We want it to get done well, but the current DRA doesn't do that.
Thank you. Danny Farrar?
If you don't honor your word, you ain't got no word. If we've signed the agreement with them, then we need to honor that agreement that it came in.
Thank you. Phil Dacey?
Just want to say thank you all for coming out tonight in this lovely evening. I know we've been caught in the rain a few times this year, but I'm Phil Dacey. I'm running for County Council at Large, and I would support the DRRA agreement. One of the concepts I think that will help everybody is when they do flush out the final development, it will hopefully reduce the cost, the burden of maintaining the facilities and infrastructure that you have here, spread it among more people. So it'd be like a decrease in cost for the residents here. So I would support that. I think that it's a contract, and we don't have much choice. Even if you don't like it, you gotta abide by contracts that were signed, even by prior boards. So thank you.
Thanks. Moving on to District 4, Jimmy Trout.
Hi everyone, I'm Jimmy Trout, running for District 4. Jessica and I was up here looking at a cheat sheet I have in front of me. It's got a lot of acronyms that I've made up because I've never seen a county with so many acronyms before in my life. And there's a whole page of them that I did. Anyway, the DRRA that is in place at this point in time, if it makes the developer happy, and obviously it did, and it made the county happy at the time that it was signed, then I see no reason for a new council and a new executive to come in and make changes. I'm gonna come into office not wanting to upset everything that the previous council has done or the executive has done, and I'm not gonna come in the office and blame everything on them. I will come in and try to build on what they've done and try to move forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Fitzwater.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you again for coming out. So as was mentioned already, the DRRAs, the Developer Rights and Responsibility Agreements, the county does have to uphold our end of the bargain on that. However, they can be reopened if it is something that's mutually agreed upon, or the developer has a new interest or something that changes in their own sort of field of different things they have to deal with. And that can bring about opportunities for changes that the county may want to see as well. The county can also look to see if there's legislative changes we could make that might entice a developer to want to come back. An example of that is during our last 4 years, I introduced a bill that has to do with moderately priced dwelling units. Currently, each development is supposed to build 12.5% of their units as moderately priced dwelling units, but most have opted to pay a fee in lieu since that option was made available to them. But what we did is we changed our own regulations to better align with state and federal programs that would make getting other tax incentives easier. And we actually had the developer of the Ballinger Run development down in Ballinger Creek come back to us wanting to reopen their DRA to actually build affordable units rather than pay the fee, and they're actually moving forward with even more units than they're required to. That's a plus for them, it's a plus for the county, and so I think there are opportunities like that out there, and I wouldn't want to not be open to those in the future.
Thank you. District 2, County Council, in reverse alphabetical order, starting with Steve McKay.
Well, hi there. So I'll just try to keep this short and sweet. I didn't agree with aspects that the DRAs are. All right, this is better. I didn't agree with all the aspects of that approval and the DRRA. That said, I completely respect the fact that, the community had issues that needed to be addressed. They had not been addressed for too long. You had things that needed to be fixed, roads that needed to be connected. So where we're at right now, as far as I'm concerned, what's done is done. We move forward, we respect the agreement. So, yes, I would respect the agreement.
Thank you. Lisa Jarosinski.
Thank you all for coming this evening. This development has been on the books for 50 years, so I think you should allow them the opportunity to finish it. We did make an agreement, so we need to abide by the DRRA. And I believe they have a developer now that they are enjoying working with. And I think the Lindenauer Association is a very fine group of people, and as long as they're working with the developer and they can come up with something that they agree upon, I think we should move forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Schmeller.
Thank you. As defined, I would absolutely support it as it is. I do recognize that some of the comments up here were spot on. Councilwoman Fitzwater's right about certain aspects. When something comes up and a good idea, hopefully there would be willingness by a developer to open it up and the community saw fit to see change, and hopefully they would also be reciprocal in that. If the community sees something that would benefit them, and I think when they're in that the developer that they entered into the agreement with Ballinger Creek has actually tried his best to work with the community. I've been to board meetings, and I think he's tried to reach out as best as he possibly could, or as that community as possible, that developer could. And as someone who's watched Lake Lindenauer develop, my parents bought a lot there in 1975. I've seen the effects of developers going bankrupt, not having roads there to continue the development, and then the entire development suffering. So there is some stability there in that DRRA, knowing that going forward that the roads will be completed. The bridge, which has been washed out since 1972, I think, in Agnes, will be a tremendous asset, and that's only going to happen through this DRA this time.
Thank you. We're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to address one law enforcement question for candidate for Sheriff Carl Bickle. You'll have a minute 30 to respond. Give me 1
I'll second.
What are your plans for a community policing policy in Lake Linganore and nearby communities? I'm being bleeped out. What type of training, resources, and personnel are you willing to commit in order to support such a program without passing these costs on to the community?
Okay, as far as the community policing goes, community policing has actually become more of a political buzzword that police chiefs and sheriffs use to get jobs and mayors use to win elections. We don't really see real community policing taking place in most jurisdictions. I spent 17 years in the Office of Community-Oriented Policing in the Justice Department, working with state and local law enforcement agencies all around the country, helping them operationalize community policing, providing training and technical assistance to that end. And that's what I'll bring to the Sheriff's Office, to get the police in the community actually partnering together. Community policing is simply about community and police partnering together to both identify problems, identify solutions, and work together to implement those solutions. And that's what we'll do with the Lake Linganore community and everywhere we can in the county. And as far as staffing issues, that the Sheriff's Office is understaffed right now. What we'll do is work to get that staffing up to par so we can accomplish that.
30 more seconds. We can run a community, but we can't work a timer.
Well, like I said, we get the staffing up to speed, then we will increase the training that the Sheriff's Office already has. The training budget was cut, and what I'm going to do is work with the Council of County Executives to ensure the training budget is increased. That Kathy Afzali mentioned the lawsuit issue, and the lawsuits we have had in this county, and they've been with the Sheriff's Office, that considerable amount of money has been lost and we can fix them.
Thank you. Okay, on to the topic of jobs and the economy. And we will start with County Council District 4 in alphabetical order this time. What are your priorities for creating jobs locally? And aside from schools, what other features can be used, what other attributes of the county can be used to attract more employers to the area? And what role do you see yourself playing in this effort? We'll start with Councilmember Fitzwater.
That was a long question, so I'll try to make sure I get to all those. I think the county actually over the last 4 years has done a great job of attracting new jobs. We've brought quite a few new jobs and expanded current businesses and brought new businesses to Frederick County. The council, in partnership with the county executive, has passed several tax credits, small business tax credits, and also one specifically for manufacturing. And I think anytime that we can build smart incentives in that will attract the types of jobs and businesses that we want here, that's the type of work that the council should be doing, looking for those legislative solutions that will attract the types of jobs that we want. We know that so many of our employees here cannot afford to live here, and that to me is one of our biggest issues. I know the question wasn't about housing affordability, but the quality of the jobs that we have and the amount of jobs that we have is really tied to also, can our community afford to live and work in Frederick? So I think any of the initiatives we can move forward in terms of diversifying our types of housing and incentives to build more workforce housing will also help get more employees here, and that's good for our employers as well because they have a larger workforce to draw from. We do have excellent schools here, and that's certainly something that attracts many people to our community, but we have such a unique balance between thriving municipalities with vibrant downtowns, but also our beautiful rural areas and our agricultural history and legacy that we have. So I think continuing to message Frederick County as that unique place will also help attract more businesses.
Thank you. Jimmy Trout.
Thank you. You know, the neat thing about local politics is that we really do agree more times than we disagree. It's just the 10 or 15% of the things that we disagree that really comes to the forefront and you see in the paper every single day. And I just want to make that known, that Jessica and I are probably going to agree on a lot more than we're going to disagree. It's that 10 or 15% that's going to decide who to. To get new businesses, you just simply use your council way of getting out to the public, letting people know that we have a county that's open for business. And one thing that I'd like to see is manufacturing jobs. East Alco was a big one. I had a lot of friends that worked there. Fedder's up in Walkersville was another big one. We lost them. Parts company, making clothing is a big one that we lost. These are manufacturing jobs. This is when you build something and you sell it. And those type of businesses can usually be worldwide. And I think we need to solicit, put it out into the country, for that matter. New York advertises countrywide because they need people up there because they're so far in debt. And I think we can do that. We have the schooling, like the CTC Center, and that is something that I would like to fund even more, is get more CTC people involved. Right now there's a lot of them that want to be involved and they can't, simply because we don't have the capacity. So I think getting manufacturing here in our county is a big one.
Thank you. On to District 2. In alphabetical order, starting with Councilmember Schmeller.
Thank you very much. Jimmy and Jessica are kind of spot on together, and these are one of these things that I think we all can agree on how things occur. We do have some of the best schools around. Folks do come here and they want to live here for our schools, there's no doubt about that. I think one of the things we can continue to do is fund our parks and amenities such as that, and our libraries, and continue to keep them. They are places that also draw and attract folks in our community. In addition to that, we need to concentrate more on our tourism. Recently, expanding wineries and breweries and things like that, especially here in District 2, which has the most wineries and farm-based breweries in the county. So these are places where it helps preserve our farms. These small businesses also bring 10 to 15 people in employment on each one of those operations, which is nice to see. I agree with more tax incentives to bring small business here, not just the larger corporations. I think we need to encourage small business. And one of the things I'd written down before Jimmy had mentioned it was the CTC. It's important, as if someone who is in the construction business as a general contractor, the average age of a person who is in the trade is 45 to 50 years old. Young people aren't going in to be electricians, drywallers, masons, mechanics, and things like that. And I do believe more funding for our CTC Center and things of that nature would be very, very beneficial here to Frederick County to help bring more businesses and to recognize that we see everything as a benefit here in the county, not just manufacturing jobs, not just computer jobs, not just the high-tech paying jobs. It's often overlooked. Some of the necessities that we need are those things that are constantly, we don't have enough of. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Jarosinski.
Well, we're all on the same theme here. So I'd like to see some more high-tech jobs coming in, maybe some medical, moving our medical facilities out and not just having them so concentrated in Frederick City. You asked us, other than the schools, our schools are great, but other than the schools, I think we have great recreational opportunities. We have beautiful views, beautiful vistas, opportunities to participate in our parks and our rec programs. We also have the cultural center of the Weinberg Center, and we do have wineries and breweries and things that are fun to go and participate in doing. So, and I think we should also keep in mind that we need to repurpose buildings that, so if you have an old building that was used for manufacturing and it's not presently being used, we need to figure out a way to repurpose that building. And I know that the Office of Economic Development is looking at that and trying to find opportunities so that property doesn't sit vacant and we find opportunities to use it.
Thank you. Steve McKay.
So a lot of agreement, and I agree with those who are in agreement. So what else can we add at this point? Yeah, we definitely need to create a desirable environment to attract businesses. We talked about, well, we're not talking about schools, but we all clearly know that we need to have good, sound schools. We need to have a good, solid transportation, network to support the growth of businesses. We need good, strong, attractive communities, and we have those. Frederick County has so much to offer, and I think, it's half the job is, half the battle is just getting out there and educating businesses to encourage them to come here. Now, Jessica mentioned, different ways to incentivize business growth, and that's one area. But I think what what no one's talked about yet is we also have to always be on the lookout at how what we have now in terms of our regulatory structure, our fee structure, make sure we're not impeding our ability to bring businesses here. We always need to be mindful of that and to always be ready to take good, hard, cold looks at what our regulatory structure is to make sure that we don't have things in there that are actually hurting us. So one last point. I'm not going to tell you that I have all the answers. I don't. Okay, particularly in this area. So job number one for me is going to be listen and learn. I want to talk to the chamber. I want to talk to our business groups. I want to hear from them what their ideas are, to encourage more business growth in the county.
Thank you. On to our at-large candidates in alphabetical order, starting with Phil Dacey.
All right, well, it's a good question for me. I'll give you a couple, I agree largely with a lot of what has been said, but I want to give you a couple specific examples of things you might not think about that can attract jobs. AstraZeneca, when they wanted to move to Frederick, and they brought 600 some jobs to Frederick City, and they want to bring more, but there's a couple things that are impeding them. One of those things is infrastructure. You don't think about it, each one of those trucks that they pull out of their lot there where they manufacture the pharmaceuticals has multi-millions of dollars worth of drugs in it, or pharmaceuticals. And they're concerned about things like the bridge that they have to cross to get to their manufacturing facility. So infrastructure plays a role in making sure we can bring good jobs. I do think Loudoun County right now, we have a disadvantage in that right across the river in Loudoun County, and a lot of these factors are state factors or factors that may be beyond Frederick County's direct control. But Loudoun County's kicking our butt in jobs and in corporate headquarters. There's a ton of Fortune 500 companies that have located right across the river in Loudoun County. I think we need to do more to attract those types of major employers to Frederick County. We have to do a better job of marketing ourselves. For example, Loudoun County right now, you may not know, 70% of the world's web traffic goes through Loudoun County in their warehouses, the data farms that they have there. But they had a vision and for where they wanted to go, and I think Frederick County needs that vision to be able to compete.
Thank you. Danny Farrar.
Yeah, for me, I think one of the things we have to start with is the regulatory process that's here and make it as easy as humanly possible to be able to allow people that live here to be able to start a business here. Small business changed my life. I went from being homeless and eating out of trash cans to owning one of the fastest growing companies in America. When we opened in Frederick, it was the easiest gym we've ever opened. Montgomery County's daggone bankrupted me 3 times because of the process that it takes to get through there. Some of our permitting, I do think, is dated, and we need to look at that and ways to streamline it, because you can start a business nowadays with a phone and a strong Instagram account. We need to be able to look at the ways that we can open this up so that people that are creative, and that's what entrepreneurs are, they're creative problem solvers. Let them be able to go out and do what they need to get done. I always use the example of Ed Miller Playground. He goes into the permitting office to try to get a permit. They tell him, well, we have a permit for operating heavy equipment, we have a permit for entertainment, but we don't have a permit for entertainment on heavy equipment. You can't do business here. Well, he went right north of the line and started a business up there. So we need to do what we can as best as possible to do that. The Office of Economic Development also has a fund that is approved by the county executive and the council. Right now they have to bring that to attract and incentivize business and help small businesses get started. Right now they have to bring that before the council in order to get approval to spend those budgets. I think it's fair enough that we should let them do their job. They're awesome, they're smart, they know what they're doing. Let's create a charter amendment, if it's possible, we'd have to look, that would let them just go ahead and do it without clearance.
Thank you. Kai Hagan.
Well, people are coming here, they're going to come here, our population is going to grow significantly, and jobs are going to come here. But what kind of jobs, how well they pay, the diversity, the type of businesses is going to be affected substantially by the way in which we plan for the people part coming here. If we utilize smart growth, if we maintain an attractive community with a high quality of life and top schools and adequate parks and libraries and everything else, and we have walkable communities and more public transit and more affordable housing because we are approaching growth in many ways differently than we have historically. The quality of the businesses that will come here, because they have a choice about where to go, will be higher, because we have good schools for the kids, because they can go trout fishing on the weekend close by, because it is a safe and walkable and attractive community. So there's a lot we could do besides that. The Office of Economic Development, the city and the county both do an outstanding job. I echo everything that Jessica said. I think, in terms of tax credits, what we can do to promote it aggressively to the kind of businesses that we want to attract here, but we also want to grow businesses here. We want to create the kind of environment where new businesses can start up well, and that takes a variety of things, but things like the Frederick Innovative Technology Incubator is one of the things. I'd like to see us approach take that approach to apply it to some other things, like with the changes in agriculture, and have a regenerative agriculture incubator. But anyway.
Thank you. Susan Reeder, Jesse.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually worked in economic development for the city of Frederick for 2 years, and I was involved in business retention recruitment and bringing better paying jobs to the area. And I felt very dearly about that. I was also on the regional board, and for 11 years I served on a client selection committee for FITCI that was interviewing the clients that wanted to come here, incubate here, and grow their company here, and that has a tremendous track record. And I'm very proud, and like I agree with Kai, we need to maybe do some more things with that. And we just opened up one in downtown Frederick to focus more on the tech side of things. Frederick is very blessed to have a diversified industrial base that has weathered us through many, many storms when companies have left, like BP Solar. But we've got companies that continue to come here, grow here, like when MedImmune became AstraZeneca, Lonza is here, Wright Manufacturing is here and growing. And so I think that helps us weather through all those times. We've got a diversified workforce. We have great universities and great schools here, and that's why people come here, and that's what they told me. First thing they would ask me is, what is your schools like before a company wants to come here? And the quality of life is unlike anything I can describe. I mean, I've lived here all my life. It's a wonderful place to play, live, and work. So we need to capitalize on our current strengths, and that will trickle down into complementary jobs in those areas. And we need to give economic development, county economic development, more teeth, and so they can aggressively go out and get those companies here, because we've got everything here to attract them. We just need to go after them more aggressively. Thank you.
Councilmember Otis.
We are in a fierce battle for companies. Montgomery County is really going after it, so is Loudoun County. And that's why I voted in favor of a 10-year tax break for new business like AstraZeneca to come here. They have good jobs. They were willing to take our students out of our schools and train them. And I think it's a great way to compete against these other counties that are really trying to pull people as well. We also have a tax break for those small businesses that are 5 and under, which I think is very important, because 80% of the jobs in America are by small business. So I think we've addressed that in this last session. I think we also need to take care of take an interest in the biotech firms, because of Fort Detrick's in our area. It's a very strong biotech campus there, and I think that they can be a great asset to us in pulling companies here. And these wine tasting rooms that Councilman Schmelik talked about are something that will really help our industry on the smaller farms and in the community here. So we need to give it everything we've got. Helen Profiter, head of economic development for us, is doing a really good job. And we get out, we talk to all the businesses, and let them know we are happy they're here, and what can we do to help them stay here. It's a selling job all the time.
Thank you. And on to our county executive candidates, starting with Delegate Afzali.
Well, thank you. It took a while to get to me. Well, it's a great question. Generally, I agree with everyone on most of their points, except for a few. First and foremost, we want to make sure that we get the county out of the way. We want to make sure that the county is business friendly all the time. I do get concerned about the county offering tax incentives. What ends up happening, what happens nationwide really, is that when a community offers a tax incentive to a company, the company also oftentimes takes the community up on that tax incentive, and then when that time span runs out, then that company holds the community hostage basically and says, we're gonna leave unless you continue or give us an even better break. So I think it's better tax policy all around just to keep taxes low in Frederick County, make Frederick County business friendly, make the county a place that a business wants to come to for the long term, not just to get an initial tax benefit. And some of you may know that I support Governor Hogan completely, but I did disagree with the governor when he had a special tax package for the Amazon company. And I ended up voting against that bill. I don't always vote party line. And I voted against it because I believed that it put other companies at a disadvantage and that we were playing favorites in the state of Maryland. So I think it's important to level the playing field, keep taxes low for everybody, and get county government out of the way for businesses to succeed.
Thank you. County Executive Gardner.
Okay, well, business is really thriving and moving in Frederick County. When we talk about growth, we have a housing pipeline that we don't need to add to. So my whole growth plan is more jobs. We really don't need more housing. We want to make sure people can live here and work here. We don't want to be just a bedroom community. So I'm really excited that over my administration, we've added 6,500 net new jobs over 9 different industry sectors in Frederick County. We do have a business and industry advisory cabinet, which didn't exist before, so that we have the eyes and ears of the business community really telling us what they need. We have started a second incubator downtown in the city of Frederick called Root, and that has really helped to add about 800 new full-time jobs in Frederick County from emerging businesses. And we do have a great existing tax structure. In fact, we're very attractive because we're one of the few counties in Maryland that does not have a business personal property tax. So we do have an exciting large business that is looking to open in Urbana, and that should be announced relatively soon. I think it'll be very exciting for Frederick. Right now, we have about 7 new businesses looking to locate in the county, and many of our existing businesses are expanding. For the first time, we have somebody in economic development whose job is attraction to go out and sell the county. And I think it's really important that you have a county executive that can make a pitch. So people like our location, they want to have a well-educated workforce, that education is important, and they want to have that high quality of life. And I could talk more, but we have a growth opportunity strategy that we've put in place to make sure that we seize our opportunities so that we become a job hub in Maryland.
Thank you. You mentioned the development pipeline. We'll go, this will be a quick question, 30-second answer. 30 seconds or less, please. You mentioned that our development pipeline is full, or we have a pipeline of approximately 20,000. I believe it was in 2014, the Maryland Department of Planning projected we would need some 37,000 homes by, or living units by 2040. Is that correct? And do you feel our pipeline is full based on that information? County Executive Gardner.
I was going to say, I wasn't sure who you were starting with. I do think our house pipeline is full for the moment. We have between 20 and 21,000 housing units in the pipeline. The last Board of County Commissioners under Blaine Young approved a massive amount of rezoning, and they have 14 DRAs, and the city of Frederick has added about 7,000 houses into that pipeline, which the county does not control. And so I think the projection that you have is actually incorrect, and that we do have enough housing right now to last us for 10, 15, 20 years, and that we don't need to add to that. Now, there's exceptions to that. We may need to do affordable housing or senior housing, and we have some small towns like Thurmont, Emmitsburg, that might want a little housing within their municipality. So I think that's the answer to that question.
Thank you. Delegate Afzali.
Squeeze it into 30 seconds. A lot of the development that's happening is happening in the municipalities. The city of Frederick is expanding. So I think what you're talking about is county development. So we have plenty of houses in Frederick County right now. However, I disagree with the types of houses that are being built. I think it's too high density, it's too intense. We don't have the roads or the school capacity to counter it. The challenge that we have is that it's county policy as well as state policy that has led us to this point where we're getting this high-density housing, these townhomes and these small dwelling units, and we need to address that and change that policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Carl Bickel, you care to comment?
On housing, that's above my pay grade.
Steve McKay, 30 seconds.
Here in District 2, we're really facing a lot of challenges going in because of the amount of housing that were, that were approved under that Young administration. Over 11,000 homes were approved just in our corner of the county here. We're just starting to see them pop up in places like Urbana, Lansdale, and yes, Linganore. And we're going to be dealing with the implications for a long time to come. It's not just the number of homes that are in the pipeline or what's needed. It's the nature of the developments that were approved and the infrastructure that wasn't there to support them and that won't be there. And we have particular challenges in the Linganore New Market area. We've got 2,600 homes coming in, bringing New Market to the north. It's going to put a tremendous strain on Boyers Mill Road, on Gas House Pike, Maryland 75. These are big challenges that we have to manage.
That's your time.
Sorry.
Lisa.
I understand your passion, Steve. I think we do have.
That was us, not Steve.
It's okay. I do understand we have 20,000 homes in the pipeline, and I think that's adequate. I am unfamiliar with the study to which you reference. If you provide it to me and read it, I'll have an opportunity to read it. I might have some comment about it, but I'm unfamiliar with that study. I do, however, think that we need to consider affordable housing, senior housing, and allowing municipalities to add more if they need to. But I think that the pipeline that we have of 20,000, and particularly for District 2, is sufficient.
Thank you. Tony Schmeller.
I believe your question was the adequacy of 20,000 homes. For the short term, it probably is, and as Lisa stated, I haven't seen that study either. I would just suggest to you, though, having been through a time when the county put a moratorium on lot recordation, what it does to artificially affect the market going forward can be very, very difficult. When it takes 5 to 10 years to get any type of development approved to move forward, you are going to have a complicated problem if we don't at least plan in the future in some manner, whether it's through our master plan or something, to say, hey, yes, we have enough now. There were enough approved. I completely agree with that. But note that we haven't approved any new development in 4 years. So this problem will be compounded in the future going forward for what it's going to cost to build and or develop any kind of property going forward in the future in the out years, 10, 15, 20 years.
Councilmember Fitzwater.
Again, I'm not going to comment on this study either, but I do think that the pipeline we have is sufficient for now. I'm not opposed to looking at the needs of municipalities, but I do think we have to look at diversifying our types of housing. I will disagree with Delegate Afzali that I believe we have to have high and low density options. Not everybody wants or can afford a single family home on an acre lot, and that's not using our resources in the county in a smart way. We want to make sure that we can attract young families and young professionals, that we have options for seniors that want to sell their larger homes and downsize. And we have, the only housing we have approved in the last 4 years was senior housing in Urbana. We desperately need more options for our seniors. The fastest growing part of our population in Frederick County, growing about twice as fast as the state average. So I think that we also have to deal with what Steve talked about, which is school capacity, road capacity, and infrastructure needs that this housing pipeline brings along with it. And until we can deal with that effectively, I don't want to see our pipeline grow too much.
Thank you. Jimmy Trout.
Well, 20,000 homes sounds like a lot, but I'm a free market kind of guy, and I believe that if the market stands for another 20,000, then we put 40,000 into it. So basically what's going to happen is when the housing market is no longer desirable to live here in Frederick County, they'll stop building homes. It's just that simple. I don't know what else to tell you, but free market is going to drive it.
Phil Daisy, 30 seconds.
I will say I don't know how terribly relevant the pipeline is, just because that includes a lot of developments that have been on the books for so long. I'll give you one example. Crumlin Farms was annexed 2 Frederick City administrations ago, and they have yet to break ground. That was 10 years ago. 10 years and they haven't even broken ground. that's supposed to be, I don't know, 800, and they keep changing the nature of the development. But when it takes 50 years to finish Lake Linganore and 30 years they're still building in Whittier, I'm not so sure how relevant the pipeline is. But we need to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place for any of these planned developments, and that we have housing available for people so that the costs don't continue to skyrocket. You limit the supply, like the free market says, you limit the supply of the fish, sorry, costs will go up.
Danny Farrar.
I'm gonna echo what Bill said. We just talked about how long it's taken and Lake Linganore isn't completed. And I personally want to get complete because I got a house that's getting built in Lake Linganore right now, and my baby and my house are supposed to come at the exact same day on January 2nd. So I know this process can go longer than you think it should be. Is that 30?
No, sorry.
I'm gonna go home and have like PTS tonight off, but damn, it's good, it's crazy. But I think you have a lot of houses in there. Crowding is obviously an issue. You're setting traffic the whole time. I think we're good where we're at, but just because we're here, you can't wait until that pipeline's completely done before you start looking at the future. You know, the whole thing with Liverpool Frederick is let's look off into the horizon.
That's time.
Yeah.
First of all, the Crown Farm hasn't been built yet because that was a really bad annexation that was rushed through with a poor negotiation and a bad plan. I'm not surprised it hasn't been done yet, but that's not because there's not an interest in developing on the north side of Frederick. In general, I think the pipeline is big, but it doesn't mean that should be the only housing we build. I'd like to see some of that housing not be built because some of that pipeline is just, rural sprawl that we don't need. And a lot of the growth that's going to happen and that should happen in and around our existing municipalities. They will be able to plan and grow through annexation and infill without the county's okay, but the county should be involved through countywide planning, through providing support, through looking at the interconnections, transportation networks, regional needs, and economic development and other things to support that municipal growth smartly.
Thank you. Susan Reeder, Jesse, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I've lived in 4 out of the 5 districts throughout my life, and I know each has their challenges and strengths. And I'm okay with the 20,000 pipeline. It's very, very difficult to change that. I want to move forward, and we can plan throughout that for the future while preserving what we have here, what I loved here. I think we're way behind the curve on affordable housing and senior care housing. I think that was mentioned by Jessica, and we need to do a better job with that. Cedar Housing, fastest growing population here in Frederick County, they don't have kids and they have 1 car. So those are other things that have to, well, I'm sorry.
Time.
Do you have kids?
Some of them.
2 cars.
3 cars and a motorcycle.
Don't worry, okay, I apologize, way to go.
That's your time, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Otis, 30 seconds.
Our biggest problem facing the county in the future is affordable housing. We need about 6,000 to 10,000 affordable homes right now. And between 35% and 40% of our population that lives at the poverty line are lower. And that's single moms and having young children. So the model's changing, and I think we need to be sensitive to that because the fastest growing segment is the senior population in the whole Mid-Atlantic region in Frederick County.
Time.
And that's why I think that we need to take a good hard look at that. We do have a affordable dwelling unit bill we just passed where you can have a granny pad on the same property if it's 800 acres or less. 800 square feet or less. And there's no impact fee.
Okay. We're going to get our timer straight here. Time out for the timer. Okay.
You do have the best mics of all the debates so far.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
You have that.
Our sound guys. How about a hand for our sound guys? Okay, so we're going to start, we'll jump around a little bit. We're going to start with District 2 candidates in the middle. The question is, do you support Livable Frederick in its current form, and/or what changes or additions would you make to the comprehensive plan and planning process, starting with Lisa Jarosinski? 90 seconds.
Okay, so I like Livable Frederick. I have not, to be totally honest, I have not read the thing from cover to cover in every detail. But I have looked at it, and It's a plan, it's a way forward. It doesn't look like it's not designed to be legislation. It's designed to provide us with some suggestions about going forward and what the goals are for the county and how to work together. It's not about creating regulations, it's about not creating regulations actually. It's about getting groups together so that you build a coalition and you collaborate and you figure out what the objective is. And so people get together, make their decisions, and work forward, and then you put together whatever zoning requirement it is, or as a way forward. So I like Livable Frederick. I think they took a lot of time and effort to discuss things with. It's not a top-down idea; it's a bottom-up. So they solicited a lot of information from a lot of different stakeholders. And I think that's the way of the future. I think you need to get the stakeholders involved, and that we spend too much time in this country doing things top-down. And it is a democracy. It is about working together and collaborating and working out our differences and figuring out what our common goals are and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve McKay, District 2.
Yeah, I think for the most part I support Livable Frederick. I've had moments where I had concerns about how it was developing. I've been watching it over the last several years as they went through scenario evaluations. I was particularly concerned that they really weren't considering cost in terms of the scenarios, and I didn't understand, even from the standpoint of Livable Frederick being a strategic plan that it is, when you're not dealing with cost, how do you evaluate different scenarios from a policy perspective? I was concerned about the acceptance of the pipeline as a given, because I think there are some developments in that pipeline that I think were really poor decisions, some of which aren't even there anymore, but they're still considered to be part of the pipeline, Monrovia Town Center. So I've had my issues with it along the way, but where it's at now and what it represents, yeah, I can support it. I mean, Livable Frederick, to me, it's a strategic plan. All right? It sets very high-level, lofty goals for the county, goals that derive from, as Lisa mentioned, a bottom-up process in terms of interaction with citizens by way of the surveys. So I embrace that concept. As a strategic plan, I get frustrated with it. I'm a more tactical guy at times. I'd like to see more of the details in terms of implementation. But I get how it's framing it from that high level. The devil's going to be in the details in terms of as the supporting initiatives, those last little bullet points in the plan are actually developed, because that's where legislation is going to come from. That's where real impact will come from.
Thank you.
So the last comment that Steve made is what worries me about the Livable Frederick plan. I've been on the record when it came out and during the initial discussions that we had. The concept is a good idea. There's no doubt about that. We do need to look at a different way of our overall comprehensive planning. The fact that it takes into a lot of other factors than just a simple zoning specification, if you will. It takes into account, the schools, it takes into account health, it takes into account our demographics, it takes into a much larger picture. Some of the issues I have with it is, though, when I talk to folks who have gone to the outreach meetings, they came away a little confused. They weren't, the average person could not understand. And to some degree, and just from what the last two folks had said, I think that they would agree that there is some confusion in the plan, and they may not, but when you even hear folks talk about how does it achieve its goal, what is it doing, it's not very, very clear cut. The overreaching goal is to include everybody in the community, and that is a good idea. I did have an issue with the outreach, and as much as it wasn't scientific, it was volunteers to come in and choose to fill out the forms and things like that. The county could have done a better job of actually reaching out to the entire community as a whole through some sort of campaign beyond through the libraries and places like that, where it's a certain type of I shouldn't say it that way, but a certain demographic that will go to those places and not get the entire input of every community out there. And I think that was missed. So there are some good things in it. I think it has good possibility, but at this point in time, I cannot support the plan as it currently is. I do think it could continue, and it has a great possibility for the community.
Thank you. We are going to skip over to county executive candidates. We'll start with Delegate Afzali.
Thank you. So I do differ with what one of the candidates said up here, saying that we're a democracy. We are not a democracy, which is one of the reasons you're here tonight. We are a constitutional republic. And as a constitutional republic, you're going to choose people to represent you who hold your values and as closely as possible represent the values that you believe in. So that's why you're here tonight. You're here to vote and choose people who will make the decisions for livable Frederick. So right now, livable Frederick leaves us with more questions than we have answers. So what's going to matter is who you vote for to be in the county council and to be in the county executive's office, because that's who's going to implement, like Mr. McKay mentioned, that's who's going to implement the plan or scrap the plan. But we are not a democracy, so you won't be voting on the livable Frederick plan. You will be voting for one of us, and we will be voting yes or no, and how we want to implement this plan. So again, that's why you're here. It's very important that you choose the right people that hold your values. And with regards to livable Frederick, I do have a lot of questions about it. I think we all need to kind of take a little step back. It feels like a little bit like utopian society, and we need to think hard about it before we go any further.
Thank you. County Executive Gardner.
I think Livable Frederick is an outstanding plan for the future of Frederick County. It is a master plan. It was put together with an unprecedented amount of public input, from surveys to well over 100 public meetings, from outreach all over the county. And we used technology to help us look at scenarios, something we've never done before. And so we looked at, if we developed in multiple ways, what would happen to our transportation network? And then we used that information to come up with scenario planning. And we really wanted to leverage the strengths of our community and the planning, such as our existing transportation networks, and consider that. The Maryland Department of Planning lauded the plan as a model for others in the state of Maryland because it brought in aspects like health and quality of life and work and how people will want to work in the future. The Planning Commission is working on an implementation chapter, which I believe will answer some of the outstanding questions about how it will work, because it is a different concept. I think it's an outstanding plan, and I hope it moves forward in the future and is implemented. Now, my opponent, Kathy Afzali, said the last forum that she would scrap the plan. And it concerns me that if we don't have a plan, then there's a cost to doing nothing. Others will come in and make decisions that aren't in the context of where we want to go and what we want to be. And we really need to make sure that we do good planning for the future, or we'll have haphazard planning. So I think that you can't say no to all of the people who've been engaged in this. We've had 110 people over multiple work groups that wrote the plan. I've read every word of it and every piece of public input, and we've addressed all of the public input. And so not everybody will always agree on everything in there, but it's an outstanding plan for the future.
Delegate Afzali, you were mentioned, so you will get a minute to
Yes, I heard my name, so I had to raise my flag.
Well,
So-
you were mentioned,
Yes.
so you don't need to raise the flag.
Oh, I
This
don't.
is your opportunity to respond.
Oh, okay. I'm
But
saving my
candidates
flag.
are reminded, you do have this challenge that
Yes.
you should use before the end of the evening.
Yes.
Because you can't save it till the end.
Yes, okay, so just to clarify, first of all, the county executive wrote the plan, so of course she loves it, and usually when you write something, you really do like it. So I applaud her for liking her own work, but not everybody loves that work. So we want to make sure that we elect the correct people to implement the plan or scrap the plan. I don't know that we're going to totally scrap the plan, but I will say that I will not be doing, if I am so honored to be your county executive, I will not spend the next 4 years blaming the administration before me and undoing absolutely everything that they've done. I will be looking forward, I will not be looking behind.
Okay, thank you. County Executive Gardner, rebuttal?
Yeah, I do want to say that as the county executive, I did not write the plan. And that's why we had a steering committee and 110 people who wrote the plan. So people were in work groups and wrote the different chapters, and then the staff kind of wove it together. So I have read the plan, I have had input into the plan, but the county executive actually doesn't have time to write a plan, and it really came from the bottom up, from the community, with a tremendous amount of public input. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to our at-large candidates. We will start with Danny Farrar.
How'd I know it was gonna be me? Listen, I think, one thing that I applaud the guys and girls that put the plan together is that they did go out and get a ton of feedback from it, but one thing I've always said, they say it's a common vision. 2,000 people, a little over 2,000 people out of 245,000 does not a common vision make. My main thing with the plan is it's filled, it's a 174-page document, it's filled with $50 words, and I think there's 11 other, I didn't count, so forgive me, but there's 11 other major documents that must become concurrent with this plan if it should pass. You know, we went to a town hall meeting, and this isn't my words, you can go watch this. They said they made the map so that you didn't know it was your piece of property to avoid contentious conversations. Like, how are you going to implement a plan by avoiding contentious conversations? Again, you can verify that this was said. So for me, that's a little scary to me. Like, I think we should have a little bit of those contentious conversations to really figure this out before we put it in. I don't think the plan is the devil. I think there's some good things in it. It has some amazing photography. I think that was you. Might have been. So there's some great photos in there. I just want us to take the time to really flesh it out so that whatever we vote on and decide is the way forward, it's going to be, we're not going to be sitting here in 5 years going, whoa, we should completely redo that again.
Thank you. Kai Hagan, 90 seconds.
Well, I echo, first of all, every single thing that County Executive Jan Gardner said about this. I've been part of the process for the entire time. I've attended most of the meetings. I've been on one of the working groups, the Environment and Energy Working Group, from the very beginning, so I'm very familiar with the process. And I have read every word, which is multiple times because it's been changing and evolving. But this is responsible planning. If you want to do comprehensive planning, and I have been involved very thoroughly 3 times in the full comprehensive planning processes in the county that have all been different, as a Citizens Zoning and Review Board in 2003 and 2, as a county commissioner when we redid the comprehensive plan, and through the livable Frederick process. And this is the way you want to do it. You don't just want to go in and talk about the map. You want to talk about the issues that the community is facing, whether it's your aging population, affordable housing needs, concerns about the environment. You want to anticipate changes in transit, in health issues, in technologies, in business practices. And you want to put all of that into a document that reflects values, goals, and priorities, and then use that to inform the discussions that are going to have to be had by the legislative body, the council, about land use and zoning specifically, so that those goals and values, that sense of what's happening, is as informed as possible. The idea that the map was generic and didn't have specific properties is because it was intentionally not about the map. There's going to be zoning changes in the county as we grow. We're going to shift the nature of zoning. We're going to do other things. That decision hopefully will be more informed by this very good 3-year process.
Thank you. Susan Reeder Jessup, 90 seconds.
Yeah, one thing I learned working for private industry my entire career, most of my entire career, is that any idea is a good idea, and you ought to explore it. I've read most of the plan. There's areas that I focus on more, especially where I live. Anytime you have volunteers that take their time to come out and be part of such an important document like this, and that could affect the future of Frederick County, I think you ought to embrace that and be very thankful as a community. It's an incredible vision, and no doubt about that. It focuses on different growth areas in a different way, and I was looking, that was nothing.
Sorry.
I was like, so.
Are you awake over there? Keep going, I'm sorry.
So, and like Leonore, I believe, is in the secondary growth area, because you've got primary, secondary, ag, and green. So I think it does a great job of separating that out. It incorporates walking, shopping, bike trails, everything I think people want in their community. Because when you come home from work every day, I think you want to relax a little bit. I think the comp plan is a very important plan as well, and I think this could be incorporated with the comp plan to work together for an overall vision. I do support that. I think we need a little more time to get more public input into this, because I think that's very important before you adopt anything, public input. So I would like that to occur as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Otis.
Livable Frederick is a great sounding name, and the county needs to use business principles at how it runs its programs as well. And in business, you know, you have a 5, 10, 15, and 20-year plan for what you want to accomplish over a period of time. I'm all in on the idea of a plan. we need to have a plan. We need to know where we're going. Otherwise, we get haphazard development and all kinds of issues that we regret later on. So I really do believe that we do need to have a plan. I've had groups come and see me that are not in favor of the plan. There is one concern is possible downzoning of properties that needs to be addressed. So I think that the zoning issue needs to be very carefully thought out. I think there's a lot of good that can come out of this, and I think that if we continue to work on it, I think we can find solutions that will provide for a better roadmap for the future of this great county, and we develop it right and in the right locations, and we have the right road plans to go with it, so that we're not all blocked up on the highways trying to get from place to place.
Thank you. Back to you, Phil Dacey.
I'm going to agree with Delegate Afzali that I think the plan raises more questions than it provides answers. I think there's a lot of other plans that are required by law, like the comprehensive plan. It's not clear to me how the livable Frederick plan, where it conflicts with, say, the comprehensive plan, how that's going to end up jiving, how that ends up working out. I think the plan reflects the people that, the small number of people that actually participated in the development of the plan. And frankly, participating in a forum like this and participating in a lot of the, county meetings and the city meetings that I was involved in, it's a luxury. A lot of families, they work, they have kids, they have a lot of other things going on. They work 2 jobs, they don't have enough time to come out and participate in a long 3-year process with multiple public hearings. So I think it's important that we recognize that Livable Frederick is the vision of those small number of people that actually participated, that had the luxury of participating in the development of the plan. It does not reflect, in fact, the larger community's desires. I mean, I think it'd be wrong to assume that it does. So I think more outreach would be better. I also think, again, it should look pretty. It's a pretty looking plan because they spent $200,000 of your tax dollars on this plan. In addition to the current staff that we're paying, the planning staff and the county government staff that we already have that can actually have these kind of skills. We went out and paid a consultant $200,000 to come out and produce this expensive plan that represents a small number of people that have the luxury of participating in it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Fitzwater.
I'm very excited about the direction that Livable Frederick is heading. I think because it's very different, change is scary for people, so it certainly has ruffled the feathers of some in the community while others have been more on board. But the fact that the plan is not just looking at a map, not just looking at zoning designations, but actually looking at the overall health and vibrancy of the county, looking at the environment, looking at the economy, looking at issues like public health and transportation, and how our growth choices affect all of those aspects of our quality of life. To me, that is what we should be doing. That's how we're going to make sure that Frederick County continues to be the wonderful place that it is. That is complicated and that is hard. So the fact that Livable Frederick is trying to take that on is part of why it's this ever-changing document that does sometimes raise questions along the way, but I don't view that as a negative. I am very much looking forward to seeing the updated draft coming from the Planning Commission. I think it's very important to point out that this is still a draft. And so I've had a lot of conversations with people, do you support Livable Frederick or do you not support it? I am not going to make that decision until I see what the document actually is that's going to be before the County Council, because what we have right now is still a draft. The Planning Commission has taken a lot of public comment, even after there was so much public comment taken into account during the drafting process, and then since that draft was put out there, they've taken even more public comment into account, working with staff to update the plan and add the implementation chapter, as County Executive Gardner stated. It does still need to be more fleshed out, but I think the approach is the right one.
Thank you. Jimmy Trout.
So I want to go on record to say that I'm going to echo everything that Danny said, everything that Kathy said, and everything that Phil said. And I apologize if people get irritated with me for using first names, but being a judge of the Orphans Court, when you have 15 Smiths come into your courtroom, a lot of times you call people by their first name so you get their attention. I'll never forget going into a hearing and listening to Steve McKay And the man does a lot of hearings, and he does a pretty good job, I'll have to give you that. But after a minute and a half of him talking, he said, you know, what concerns me is this big white blob over the 75 and 80 corridor where he lives. And that's what it is. You know, there's just so many unanswered questions. We do definitely need to have plans in place. And there's a lot of plans already in place, or not necessarily plans, but procedures in place. If you want to build a new garage, you have to go through various processes to do that. If you want to build a development, you have to go through processes to do that. And I'm going to go right back to the free market. We need homes for senior citizens. Don't you think developers are going to come in and build that? Because they're going to make money. This is what they want to do. They want to make money. Even though they only make 3 to 5% on the net profit, is not much, but they will do it. I think there's ways that we can encourage them to do things that we need. I also know that we need some affordable housing. I've been to several meetings with Councilwoman Fitzwater, and that's a huge undertaking.
Thank you. Steve, care to follow up, since you were mentioned?
Sure. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah,
so as I mentioned, I have my own concerns about what that white blob represents as the plan going forward. You know, it's basically a reflection of the pipeline. I think it's a poor reflection of what the current status of the pipeline in that particular area is, and that's why I brought it to the council's attention. And I'll continue to keep a very sharp eye on it. Frankly, whether I win this election or not, I'm going to keep a sharp eye on that white blob. You know, but again, I do recognize though that the devil is in the details in the implementation, the actual zoning decisions that are all, you know, still to follow. That's why I have a little bit more acceptance to where the plan is right now.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to do a yes or no. See how good you guys do. And then we're going to go to some open comments, because we did skip opening comments, and I want to give everyone a chance to speak freely without me getting in the way. So first to our yes or no question, we will come down the table from the east end, starting with Councilmember Otis. One by one. As you know, or as you may know, a committee within the Lake Linganore PUD is studying the pros and cons of becoming a municipality. Lots of people believe we would be better off as a municipality, and some disagree, but there is a team chasing down the facts that we can present to our members for a vote. It is a vote it is a decision by the voters, not our board of directors or representatives. So, with that in mind, if the community were to vote in favor of forming a municipality, would you use your influence or vote to support this effort? Councilmember Otis.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
C.
If they voted already, I mean, that
Yes or
should be
no?
up to the people. The question was, the people voted and they already? Yes. Yes, if the people voted.
If the people vote in favor of it.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, if that's what you choose.
100% yes.
Carl?
Yes, that's what the people choose.
Yes.
Yes, next time just have us raise our hands and I can
So,
Okay, live and learn.
here's my,
Yes, you want to throw your challenge?
well, I'm not sure if it's a challenge, but I get a little extra time, I guess, with my 30 seconds or a minute, just to add to that. And that is that,
No.
no, I don't get to on this.
No, you need a challenger. That's for challenging someone who makes a comment. Yeah, sorry. And candidates, use them up, because you can't save them till the end. Okay, we will go now with a 90-second open remark, since we did skip opening statements. My fault. And let's start with, okay, we'll start at this end. County Executive Gardner goes first. We'll go right to left this
So
time.
can I ask you a question? Is this an opening or closing statement?
Are we finishing? Is this the end?
This is an open comment. This is 90 seconds of open comment. We will come back with a brief closing statement, yeah.
All right, it's free time. I'm Jan Gardner. I'm honored to serve as Frederick County's first county executive. During my term, we've adopted the strongest ethics laws in the state of Maryland. We have supported education and delivered outstanding public schools, raising teacher salaries to ensure the best in the classroom. We've accelerated school construction. It is my goal over the next term to completely end serious school overcrowding in Frederick County. I want to manage growth responsibly. I believe livable Frederick is part of that plan. And I want to make sure that we have a thriving economy and that we have more jobs here. And we put a plan in place for that. I'm proud that we saved Citizens in Montague, which is something no one has talked about, and that it's providing care for our seniors and doing it in a financially self-sustaining manner. We do have a growing senior population, and we have initiated something called Seniors First. So we've set up a whole senior services division to take advantage of our opportunities, which is engaging our active seniors in our community and really planning for the future. So I think that we have done a good job in Frederick County. We've put Frederick County in the right direction. We've been fiscally responsible. We have a AAA bond rating for the first time, and we've started to build parks, libraries, and roads. And we've done all of this with absolutely no tax increase. Thank you.
Delegate Afzali, 90 seconds.
Well, I'd like to challenge that. I'm not quite sure of this rule, but I'd like to challenge something that you said. Plus, do my 90 seconds?
Let's go with open remarks.
One of these times I'm going to get to challenge. Okay. So, so these remarks go like this. First of all, I wrote the ethics law. The ethics law that originally was proposed by the current county executive was very weak and wasn't even going to pass the legislature. Myself and Senator Huff rewrote the law. We got it passed through the Frederick County delegation, of which I was the chair at the time. So, voting in Linganore, the reason you all can vote and possibly become a municipality is because myself and Delegate Schultz, I want to say it was probably back in 2013, we passed a law through the Maryland General Assembly that allowed Linganore the ability to vote to become a municipality. So you have that option because if you're a delegate, you're welcome. So the county executive, the current county executive, has been in office since the 1990s. If these challenges that we have in Frederick County were going to be fixed, they would have been fixed by now. What I'd like to present to you is that you need some fresh blood. You need some new vision from someone who's got some energy and some spunk, and I'm the gal to do it. I know how to get things done. I am a Republican in Annapolis. Is that an oxymoron or what? I learned how to get bills passed. I learned how to get things done. I didn't do it from fighting or bickering or finding contention. I worked across party lines in a bipartisan way. I learned how to build consensus, and I learned to get people who didn't agree with me to agree with me. And that's how you get things done in Frederick County. I think that I'm the leader that can get that done. Thank you.
We do have a written statement. Before we get to Mr. Bickle, we would like to read in a written statement from Sheriff Chuck Jenkins, who couldn't be here this evening.
This is addressed to Julia Pareco, the young lady who did the organizing tonight, and I want to congratulate her. This letter is a follow-up to your conversation with my executive assistant several weeks ago in regard to my not being able to attend the LLA Candidates Forum this Thursday evening in Newmarket. Please do me the favor of reading this letter to the LLA members and residents attending the forum. The reason for my not being able to attend the forum is that it was scheduled the same evening, almost the same hour, as my son's graduation ceremony from the Howard County Police Recruit Academy. This is an extremely special and proud moment for me as a father, as it is my son who has completed this 30-week training academy to pursue his career in law enforcement. Inasmuch as I regret I can't attend, I'm certainly willing to respond to any questions or issues in writing prior to the forum, if that's appropriate. In conclusion, and while seeking re-election, it has been a privilege serving as your sheriff for Frederick County, and I very much look forward to continuing that role in keeping Frederick County a very safe place to live and raise your families. Thank you for hosting this forum and encouraging your residents to exercise their right to vote. He continues on that he has explained why he was not able to be here tonight, but he would like to make a brief statement in this one. Decreases in serious crime in Frederick County in 4 consecutive years, a crime rate well below 1/2 of the national average per capita. We don't experience random violent crime in this county. This is the sheriff's statement. The Sheriff's Office School Resource Officer Security Program is and has been recognized as a statewide model of excellence and has proven very effective in local schools. We are currently rolling out our active shooter response training to employers and schools countywide. The ICE 287G program in our jail has placed well over 1,600 criminal aliens into deportation, including 105 transnational gang members, mostly MS-13. I have demonstrated fiscal responsibility and good management of our budget during my tenure as sheriff. In those 12 years, I returned to the county coffers well over $32 million in annual budget surpluses and federal reimbursement funds for housing federal detainees. By using tax dollars wisely, we have still managed to purchase the best technology and equipment available to law enforcement and corrections, providing outstanding training to our personnel, keep our deputies on the roads in a very modern and up-to-date fleet of vehicles, and maintaining very adequate and effective staffing levels to provide rapid response and effective law enforcement services. Lastly, but very importantly, it's at my time as sheriff, I've been the most accessible and directly involved elected official in Frederick County, available to address any concerns from any citizen in the county. Signed by Sheriff Jenkins.
And now, Carl Bickle, your open comments.
Okay, firstly, Chuck and I don't see things eye to eye. I disagree with much of what he had to say there. That I have over 40 years of experience. I started as a beat cop in Washington, D.C. in the late 1960s, chasing down heroin dealers and other criminals, making hundreds of arrests for everything from homicide and armed robbery to larceny, disorderly conduct. I served as second in command of the Frederick County Sheriff's Office under a previous sheriff. I was chief of the law enforcement operations, where I developed policies and procedures that govern the day-to-day operations of the Sheriff's Office. I spent 17 years with the U.S. Department of Justice overseeing national training and technical assistance for state and local law enforcement. I have the experience, knowledge, and temperament to be our sheriff. H.L. Mencken once wrote, "For every complex problem, there is an answer that is clear, simple, and wrong." These are the answers that our current sheriff provides, and we deserve much better. He's wrong to think the opioid epidemic just needs to run its course while we have a fatality every week. He's wrong to think the opioid epidemic he's wrong to believe the opioid epidemic will be solved around the dinner table, a naive view that would need to be shared by a rookie cop in their first year. He's wrong when he does fear-mongering, particularly to our senior citizens, while ignoring real problems that face our fastest growing population. He's wrong to want to arm our school teachers, meaning our school teachers, counselors, and school resource officers to connect with the at-risk students to find and solve problems before tragedy strikes. He's wrong to destroy employee morale through toxic authoritarian leadership, managing personnel through fear and intimidation. We need a sheriff who understands how to lead, to motivate, and support the troops. I've been endorsed by the Teachers and Firefighters Association, the first time they've ever endorsed a candidate for sheriff. I'm Carl Bickle. I have the experience to lead, and I hope you'll vote for him.
Thank you. Steve McKay.
Hi there. My name is Steve McKay. I'm running for County Council here in District 2. I'm the Republican candidate. The reason I'm running for council is that I'm just very concerned about what's going to happen with our roads and our schools and ultimately our taxes because of the growth decisions made back in 2012 to 2014. As I mentioned earlier tonight, over 11,000 homes were approved just in our corner of the county. And we're going to be dealing with the implications of those homes for a long time to come in terms of the impact they'll have on our infrastructure. So I'd like to be part of the county council to be part of making better growth decisions going forward. We can grow, but we need to grow more responsibly, perhaps a little slower, and absolutely in time with our infrastructure. And I wasn't seeing that back then. I'd also like to be part of the county council because I think we need to hold new development to higher standards, both in terms of how we measure their impact on our infrastructure and then what we seek in return, for that impact. That last Board of County Commissioners, they kind of set the bar low
for the development community in terms of, our adequate public facilities ordinance. The current council's done some things to improve that, but I think there's more to be done, and that'd be a priority of mine if I'm elected. For the better part of the last 5 years, I was the president of a group called RAIL. We argued against several of the developments that were approved back in that time period, most notably in Monrovia Town Center. We won that fight. There is no Monrovia Town Center. Okay. As part of that, my role in RAIL, I always felt that my job number one was communication, making the community aware of what was going on. And if I'm elected, that'll be my continued objective. I believe in constituent service and constituent outreach. I'll have quarterly public meetings, to let people know what's going on.
Thank you, Steve.
Oh, thank you.
Lisa Jarosinski.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lisa Jarosinski, and I'm running for the County Council District in District 2. I'm a Democratic candidate. And the reason I'm running is because I've kind of done this before. I don't know if you all are aware, but the substation fight that happened back in 2009, 2010, we called it CAPE, Citizens Against the Kemptown Electric Substation. I was very, very involved in that, and there is no substation. Where that land has actually been recently sold for soccer fields, so that's kind of exciting. I also sat many times in Steve and Pam's home and worked on the rail board as well. So I have been involved in the development issues. I'm invested in listening. I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and so I believe that I should spend more time listening. I am a collaborative person by nature and by intent. And one of the things that I do, and I'm very proud of doing at my church, is I chair the Compassion, Peace, and Justice Committee. It's the committee that brings very uncomfortable topics to the church to have open, honest discussion without argument and accusations and attacks. And we have discussed racism, we have discussed poverty, we have discussed climate change, and we have discussed gun violence with people on opposite sides of the table who have very different views. And I have been chairing that committee, and I have been chairing most of those conversations, and people leave feeling heard, that they had somebody listen to them, heard what they had to say, and appreciated their values. And so I believe that it is about working together and collaborating. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Tony Schmidt.
Tony Schmeling, and I'm running as a write-in for District 2 to represent you again for 4 years, which I think I have done well. I believe that I've been misrepresented on how I have done that, and folks have said that I've been pro-development and pro-builder. We could not undo the DRAs that existed. There's nothing that we do that, but we could work towards working towards things that would help the community in other ways. I'm happy to say that I did vote to increase impact fees to have more schools built quicker. I'm happy to say that I also worked with Councilwoman Fitzwater to pass a stricter forest reforestation ordinance. It's a small step, but it's a step in the right direction. I believe that we can't be, it's great to be an activist, but you have to listen to both sides of every argument. You have to be willing to bring the community together, and that means to have a discussion with developers and bring them to the table as best you can. I believe we did that with the FRO. And we said, listen, we need to make some changes. We need to save more trees. We need to have more of our environment protected. I voted also for an increase in the stream buffers that Jerry Donald had put forward to increase the stream buffers by 25 feet. I did vote against increasing property taxes 4 years in a row, and I'm happy to say I did that. Some people say that, well, you've also said that you supported schools. Well, in some instances, you can't have it both ways. Unfortunately, we do not separate those parts out of the budget, but I refuse to absolutely make the burden be pushed back on all the citizens year after year on increased taxes, so I did not vote for that. So we need to have a dialogue with folks. I did not agree with some of the things that were written with the DRAs and the APFO, the way it was written, so that you would have to, I did not agree with having 20% overcrowding in schools. There should have been a shut off for that. Thank you.
Councilman Fitzwater.
Thank you. My name is Jessica Fitzwater, and I am a school teacher here in Frederick County. I teach music over at Oakdale Elementary, so not very far from here. And one of the reasons that I first decided to run, and I'm running again, is really for my kids. And when I say my kids, I'm talking about my students in the classroom. And since I ran the first time, I also became a mom, and I have a 2.5-year-old. And that sure does complicate life, but in a good way. I believe believe that investing in our kids is really our #1 priority. Investing in them means that all the issues in the future are going to be better for it. We'll have an educated workforce and a citizenry that can actually give back to our community. So I'm proud that we have, for 4 years, invested above the bare minimum required by law into our public schools, as well as keeping key school construction projects on track. Those are really big accomplishments for the county. I also want to make sure that we're moving forward with responsible growth. I also, as County Executive Garner said, think that Livable Frederick is going to be part of that solution. But I also think that being willing to find common ground where it can be found is also going to be part of that solution. I'm not about digging my feet in on one side of the issue or on the other and having us just be stuck because we can't find that common ground. As Councilmember Schmeling mentioned, we were able to find a compromise on the Forest Resource Ordinance that did not get us maybe as far as I would have liked and as was in the original bill put forward by County Executive Gardner. But I would rather see incremental progress than no progress, and that's one of my tenets as a council member, and it would continue to be. We have strengthened, is that already 19?
Time, yeah, I'm sorry.
We have strengthened our local ethics laws. I just wanted to point that out. It's not just at the state level, and we now have one of the only independent nominating committees for our ethics commission, and I think that's a really big plus from this last time around as well. Thank you.
Jimmy Trout.
Hello again, everyone. Just a little bit about me. I moved here when I was 8 years old. I graduated from TJ High School in 1984, and fortunately, in 1982, the entire county did a massive redistricting of our school system, and I met that woman right there. Wave, Cindy. She hates when I do that. That's Cindy. We got married. We were high school sweethearts. Got married. Been married for 33 years last week. I have 2 grown children. Thank you. I have 2 grown children. They're both school teachers. Like Jessica, I find the school system to be a very important part of my life, not only because of the kids, my kids that are teaching in it, but because I have a small business as well here in Frederick. I have 4 employees, and I need good people to come out of the school system, especially the CTC system. I'd like to mention to you all that I am part of Team Hogan. That is Kathy Afzali, Phil Dacey, and Danny Farrar. We have decided that we want to join ranks. We feel like sharing our knowledge with each other makes us stronger. We do communicate on a regular basis. We don't agree on everything. Nobody agrees on everything. However, coming together and discussing things, we can make things easier for each of us to understand, and we can do things better. I've left some information in the back. I encourage you to pick it up. Please read about me a little bit. You can go to gethopefulontrout.com and look at me as well.
Thank you. Phil Dacey.
I do have some advice, and that's if you want to run for public office, I hope you like talking about yourself, because you end up doing it a lot. So we've done it a lot at these forums. Actually, I was going to see if Danny wanted to trade. If you wanted to give my bio, and I can give his for now.
You're awesome.
But just a little bit about myself. I grew up here in Frederick. I graduated from Thomas Johnson a little bit after 1984, but Thomas Johnson High School. Frederick been a great place for me and my family. I'm raising 2 daughters. Neat story. They're in elementary school now, Yellow Springs. Assuming no redistricting, they'll go through the same schools that I did growing up. So I think that's kind of cool. I was honored to, I actually went to law school at night and got my law degree, and I worked for the Maryland Department of Transportation. And a few years ago, I decided that I wanted to take a greater part in my community, and I elected to run for Board of Aldermen in Frederick City. I was honored to be elected. I was the only Republican elected on the Board of Aldermen, which is 5 members. And so we all work together. I think that's the way the local government should work. The 4 Democrats and myself, I ended up teaming up with each one of them at different issues at different times, and I really think that's the way local government should work. The things I want to do, I want to bring infrastructure to Frederick County. I think Governor Hogan has provided a number of transportation solutions, one of which is a expansion of 270 up through Frederick, and make a transformative difference here in Frederick County. I want to keep taxes low, and schools are very important to me. I think we need to make sure those resources are directed to the classroom.
Thank you. Danny Farrar.
Yes, I'm Danny Farrar. I'm up here running because my life has really been about 3 things. teamwork, overcoming, and service. I led a very Jerry Springer life. I was adopted when I was 2 years old. I was molested by my brother and sister growing up. For me, it manifested itself in a way that I did horrible in school. I graduated 146 out of 147. I went to the United States Army where I served 8 years as an infantry paratrooper, seeing me take the first team to the Pentagon on 9/11 to remove remains. I was at the Pentagon an hour after the plane hit. From there, I did a combat tour in Iraq where I completed over 800 combat missions. I came back and I transitioned horribly. I got fired from the first job I ever got outside the military, which was, ironically, selling gym memberships. I say ironically because I now own one of the fastest growing fitness companies in America called Soldier Fit. We'll be opening our 10th gym by the end of this year. I ended up deciding that I should run because as I looked around all the stuff that we've accomplished in our life, I didn't do it by myself. I did it with the teamwork. From Soldier Fit, Platoon 22, I was a career firefighter in Montgomery County, graduated top of my class, earned the Chief Grades Award of Leadership. And as I looked at the council that was up there last year, it was an embarrassment. We don't allow our children to speak to each other like that. We don't allow anybody at our work to talk to our employees or our peers in the manner in which some of those members on that council spoke to each other. And that made me want to run. At the end of the day, I do not have all the answers. I am not sitting up here telling you that I'm going to be your savior. I'm up here because I want to be your servant. I hope that I can earn your vote on November 6th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Guy Hagan.
Many of you know me because I was on the Board of County Commissioners for 4 years between 2006 and 2010, but also because I've been heavily, personally, deeply involved, invested in working in our community on a wide range of issues, including in Linganore and other places throughout the county for 23 years now. But I did serve 4 years on the Board of County Commissioners. With Jan, I was one of only 2 Democrats on a 5-county Board of County Commissioners when we were the executive and the legislative branch. And for all the partisanship and divisiveness you hear about today, all the partisanship we've seen in the county locally in recent history, we didn't have that problem. Jan and I were probably on the winning side of 85 or 90% of the votes that the county Board of County Commissioners had because as a group, we worked together. We didn't treat these as partisan issues. We approached it with a good process. We were thorough. We worked things out. We got public input. We looked for solutions and common ground. And we were able to find things we could agree on and get things done. And I'm confident that I can do that with any combination of the people up here and some of the ones who aren't here tonight who get elected to serve on the 7-member council, even if there are some I would prefer to see win than others. But government needs to be honest, ethical, efficient, effective, innovative. There is no partisan answer to, smart growth planning or funding good schools or making sure there are adequate parks or that we're smart about the cost of stormwater management and green infrastructure, all these other things. These are problems we need to solve by working together with the experts, with the staff, with the public, with each other. I was endorsed by the teachers, the firefighters, the Sierra Club, and other environmental groups, and encourage you to visit my website for a lot more information than we can ever convey in a minute and a half.
Thank you, Guy. Susan Reeder Jesse.
Thank you very much for organizing this and for coming to a very important event. I love Frederick County and I want the opportunity to give back to a community that has been so good to me. I'm a lifelong resident, and as I say, I've lived in 4 out of the 5 districts throughout my life. I grew up on a family farm, so I know how important agriculture is to this community. I want to do everything I can to preserve it and highlight that as one of our strengths in the state of Maryland. I'm a graduate of TJ High School, and in 10th grade I found my love for science from my teacher, and I never forgot the passion that this teacher gave me, helped me find my passion. I went on to Hood College and stayed local and got my bachelor's degree in biology, and I was a bench scientist for 8 years on cancer and AIDS research at Fort Detrick. I went back at night while working full-time with kids and got my MBA. It took me 7 years, but I did get it. And so I've been on the business side of science for 20 plus years, working on multi-million-dollar budgets, building relationships, and just working together for the common good of curing diseases. As I mentioned earlier, I have a lot of experience working in economic development. And a little personal note, I've been married to my husband almost 34 years. He's a Frederick High grad, and I have 2 adult kids that I hope can afford to live here. They currently do live in Frederick County, and they're Midtown High School grads. That's where I live. My husband has owned a small business in Frederick County, in the city of Frederick actually, since 1985. So I know what small business owners face on a daily basis. I currently am a project manager at Fort Detrick to keep our soldiers safe on the battlefield. Thank you very much, and I hope you'll consider voting for me. Here's my information you can pick up.
Thank you. Councilmember Otis.
been a pleasure to serve the citizens of Frederick County the last 4 years. Having run at large, I have represented the county across the full county. I've spent the better part of 46 years in this county. I grew up on a farm. I learned how to work. If you ever have worked on a farm, you know what I'm talking about. County government should not be partisan. It should be open to debate in common good, trying to find common solutions to common problems, and stay on the issues. I'm very strong in education. I think I have proven that. Our teacher pay, starting here in 2014, was the lowest in 24 school districts in the state. We worked on improving that. We're still not where we need to be, but our teachers now are deciding that this is a place they can stay and work, and that's very important to me, because good education is the ticket to our young people having a bright future, and we need to give them the best that we can possibly give them. I also was very supportive of the county executive's adding of the 80-some firefighters that we were needing to add in this county, raising the deputies' pay 11%. They were being underpaid for this area. But I believe we should negotiate, we should sit down and listen to each other. You know, we all have different ideas to bring to the table, but if we do that, I think we can find what's best for the county. So I'm an independent. I want to represent all the people all the time on my job on the council.
Thank you. This is a 30-second question. Actually, Delegate Afzali, we will allow you to use your challenge. Those are the rules, yeah, so.
I can't remember what I was going to say now.
Okay.
So I'll have to.
Okay,
sorry. Sorry about that.
Okay, we'll move on to a 30-second question. Question is, based on the Lake Linganore Water Supply Agreement between the Lake Linganore Association, Frederick County, and the City of Frederick, the county has been extremely generous in providing project management support and supplemental funding to help dredge Lake Linganore. Will you support continuing this cost-sharing methodology for future dredging and dam maintenance efforts? And we will start with District 2, Councilmember Schmelly.
Could you repeat it one more time?
Based on the Lake Linganore Water Supply Agreement between the Lake Linganore Association, Frederick County, and the City of Frederick, the county has been extremely generous in providing project management support and supplemental funding to dredge Lake Linganore. Will you support continuing this cost sharing for future dredging and dam maintenance efforts?
I absolutely would support that. I think it's a vital source, not only for Lake Linganore, but for the city of Frederick and the entire community. It's an amenity, it's a wonderful amenity. Help me with that word, amenity, thank you, to the community. And in fact, what I would hope to see going forward, and I believe that the LLA has started this, a fund that would be ready for the next time that this is going to happen. I may be wrong about that, but if they haven't done it, it'd be something that I would look forward to seeing the county to fund it over a period of time so that you wouldn't have what we had occur later on where you had to come up with a large sum of money all at once to solve a problem.
That's your time, 30 seconds. Lisa Jarosinski.
So yes, I would support the continued support of the county to help with the water quality management and the management of the lake and the dams at Linganore. The water quality is really important. We use it for drinking water, so it's important that the county participates in that. And the association has done an excellent job in having finances ready and available. So I'm really proud of you all. You've done a great job, and I will continue to support you. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve McKay.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the three-way agreement. I think a healthy, clean Lake Linganore is important to the Lake Linganore community, and I think it's important to the county. So yes, I fully support continuing that agreement going forward.
Thank you. Over to District 4, Jimmy Trout.
Yeah, I would support it absolutely. absolutely. My understanding is, right now, that the water treatment or water purification plant that is at the base of the dam is for county and it's not being used. It is only being operated occasionally to keep it up and running for emergencies. And the other plant that is downstream behind Rifle Range is being used for Frederick City. Did a little bit of research on that today just so I could be knowledgeable. I just want you all to know that I'll be here for you.
Thank you. At large, we're going to start with Kai Hagan. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I don't need 30 seconds. The answer is yes. I think it's absolutely something we need to move forward with, and I believe that we're much closer to the actual it actually happening than we were in 2014. So I do support the county continuing to be involved.
Thank you. Sorry for that. Now to Kai Hagan.
Well, ditto what Jessica said, I'd support that. It's not only an important amenity and natural resource, it is a drinking water supply for part of a drinking water supply for a part of the county, and it's very important. I've been sad that we've made a number of decisions in the last few years that have made it harder to protect the water quality and have allowed some large developments and which increase the need to do dredging. And I'd like to see us do more strong planning to reduce the need to expand future dredging and sediment throughout the Linganore watershed. The county board I was on passed some strong stream buffer legislation, started with the Linganore watershed for that reason. But
Thank you. Susan Reeder, Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely. I support this. This is a great example of a partnership between Lake Linganore, the city of Frederick, and Frederick County, funding at 25% and doing the project management as well. This is very important drinking water to the city and the county needed, and more restoring the water depths to what they once were, I think will enhance everything about what everybody loves about living in Lake Linganore, as well as coming here and all the activities you do in the water.
Thank you. Councilmember Otis?
Absolutely. You can't get enough good drinking water. We need to keep it as clean as we can, everywhere, all the time.
Thank you. We'll go to Danny Farrar.
I really don't want anybody to die, so yes, I'll definitely support it.
Phil Daisy?
I have been supporting it through my Frederick City water fees, but yeah, I will support it.
Thank you. County Executive Gardner?
I'd just say yes. I did vote for the original Linganore Water Agreement and the MOU that is the three-party agreement for the dredging. Certainly we will move forward with that during this administration, and hopefully we'll be close to putting a bid award for that dredging to happen sometime soon.
Thank you. Delegate Afzali?
No, I'm kidding. I just was trying to be different. No, of course I agree. The answer is yes, and I especially agree with Danny Farrar. I don't want anyone to dive over water, so yes, I agree with all.
Thank you. Okay, so, challenge.
I would like to challenge a statement of Tom Bailey.
Okay,
And I was just waiting because he
30 seconds.
he had mentioned that the sediment was due to development, when in fact most of the sediment was due to the farming upstream from there and other things, and it was not from a lot of the development there. As a matter of fact, many studies have shown that best management practices have shown water quality go up when developments come in and actually control the runoff around places that were poorly developed to begin with, which Lake Linganore was in a lot of the way the early building was.
Thank you. Kyle, you want to respond?
Let's
30
develop the
seconds.
entire watershed wall to wall then to really improve the water. No, I mean, look, there are practices in agricultural practices, development while it's being developed, and then the result of development after it's been developed that cause different kinds of problems. But we should be protecting our watersheds better than we have. That means buffers along streams, not just the main course of our larger streams. It means, dealing with agricultural practices. It means development while it's occurring being monitored better. And it means not developing certain kinds of sprawling suburban development, in places like the Linganore watershed when we don't have to, and it's a drinking water supply.
Thank you. Show of hands, we have a related question. Do candidates want to take another question or closing remarks?
Well, we don't know what the question is.
It's a related question.
Might know the answer. That was the question.
Another question, raise your hands. Closing remarks, raise your hands. Okay.
Oh, I thought we were supposed to.
Okay, we'll end like we started. A quick closing remarks, keep it to a 1-minute closing remark, and we'll start with Council President Otis.
I hope you get out and vote on November 6th. Our way of government is the best in the world. I spent 4 years working in Russia, and I can tell you the difference is dramatic. We have freedoms because we have free choice going and voting. And I hope you get out and vote. Obviously, I hope you vote for me. You'll have to look for my name on the ballot, but it's there. And we want to move forward with good government. I think we've had a good run on the majority of the current council working together, getting things done. And we haven't raised the 1.6 per 100 on your real estate. We live within our means, and we've been able to add salary increases to our firefighters and to our sheriff's deputies and to our teachers. So we've done a lot of good things. We'd like to keep it going. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. And we need to listen to the citizens. I pulled bills off the agenda after public comment because I heard what you were saying, and we modified those bills.
Thank you. Over to Danny Farrar.
Well, the plain and simple truth, I used my first 90 seconds you gave me because I thought that was my closing remarks, so I used them in my closing remarks. It's normally I sound off, but at the end of the day, guys, what I've learned, I started early because I think I'm the only first-time candidate up here tonight. So we started 2 years ago. It's been a lot of campaigning. I met a lot of awesome people across the line, but the one thing I hope we go away from this is this country is too divided right now. If you want the division to stop, then stop being a divider yourself. And that's my goal up here, is to always listen to both sides of the aisle. Everybody that I met up here, I don't think a single person has the plan to take over the world with starting in Frederick, okay? Everyone is trying to move forward in the best possible way they think they can get there. The way we get there is to start actually listening to the other side and all sides. That's my promise to you. I'm gonna walk into any room because my mom didn't call me son because I was bright. The room is full of people smarter than me all the time. I'm gonna find the smartest person in the room, listen to them, and go from there. Hope you vote November 6th.
Thank you. Susan Reeder Jesse.
Thank you. I've always been one, when I see a need, I put my hand up and volunteer. And some things I've done since the 2014 election, I've served on the Meals on Wheels board to help bring more money to our seniors who were going to bed hungry. And I currently serve on the Fire and Rescue Advisory Board because I think public safety is very important. I had a front row seat to what public service was all about when both my parents served in a public service role, more recently my dad is a county commissioner. And I want to bring my knowledge and my experience on many of the tough issues to some place in Frederick County that means the world to me. I believe as a council I can work with anyone, bring positive resolution to any issue because we work for the citizens. That's who we work for when you're elected. Because I never going to stop believing that there's more that unites us and divides us. That's a philosophy, sorry, late night, I live by. And I truly think that Frederick County has an incredible past and the future is going to be even brighter for every citizen that is here and every citizen that wants to come here, work here, and hopefully wants to stay here. I know I do. I appreciate your support on November 6th. Thank you. Susan Reeder Jesse.
Thank you. Phil Dacey.
Thank you all for making it to the bitter end here. Campaign is a lot like an engagement. They take a long time, costs a lot of money, takes a lot of planning. But unlike with my wife, I'm okay being the second choice. County council at large, so that's why I call it a homer, you get it on the way home. But anyway, I appreciate your support. If you like what Governor Hogan's doing, I would just say we got a team up here, Hogan candidates that want to work with the governor to improve Frederick County. I think we're all would appreciate your support. If you like Governor Hogan's style, you like what he wants to deliver to Frederick County, I would say vote for the team Hogan that will help enact Governor Hogan agenda here. So thank you.
Thank you. Kai Hagan.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you to anybody who watches later. Thank you for hosting. My wife and I did not either of us grew up in Frederick County. I grew up not far away though, and I grew up coming to Frederick County. Always planned to move back here, to stay here, always wanted to, and we did 23 years ago, to stay here for the rest of our lives. We moved here with one of our sons. We had another son who's born here. They're 26 and 21 now. And Frederick County was a fantastic place to raise them. It's a fantastic place for us to live, and it's a fantastic place for us to live the rest of our lives. Local government matters. Local government is us. It's about problem solving. It's about good process. It's about caring for each other and caring for everyone in your community. Education and public safety are the single most important, the two top important things that local government is responsible for. But all those other things matter too. Schools and public safety are critical, but parks and libraries, traffic and affordable housing, and how we deal with opioid crisis and public health issues and everything else. And smart growth is one of the critical elements to getting there, because it affects and shapes everything we do and how much it costs and what resources we have, and we can do better.
Thank you. Jimmy Trout.
So I never know what I'm going to say at the beginning, the end, and all this stuff. I usually just bring up something that comes to mind. A lot of you, I want you to go to my website, read a little bit about me. You'll learn that my mother was murdered here in Frederick County, which really started this whole process for me. I was elected to Judge of the Orphanage Court 4 years ago, became Chief Judge, and basically within a few short months you become an expert at listening to people and their problems. That's probate court. That's usually when a family comes in and they have a problem, and you have to help them solve those problems. And what I can tell you is I can take that experience to the council, and I can listen to people. I can work with other people, and we can make good, sound decisions. Nobody up here is going to know everything, but you can research and figure it out and work together, and that's what I want to do.
Thank you. Councilmember Fitzwater.
Thank you. As I said, I'm really excited that I had the opportunity to serve and that I might have the opportunity to serve again in the future. I'm originally from Smithsburg, just over the mountain, but I've been living in Frederick for 14 years. My husband and I bought our house about 10 years ago, and we're raising our family here. My son will go to public schools, and so I'm personally invested in making sure that Frederick County is a great place to live moving into the future. I'm very proud of what we've accomplished the last 4 years, increases in school funding, managing the residential growth that was previously approved, making sure we have that AAA bond rating. We've been very fiscally responsible, increased senior services, and all without raising our property tax rate. But there are still a lot of problems that we're facing. I mentioned affordable housing already, and as Council President Otis mentioned, 1/3 of our families in Frederick County cannot afford just a basic survival budget in Frederick County, and that's a huge problem. And housing is the #1 barrier to that budget, and so I think we have a lot of room to grow in terms of affordable housing. We have growing public safety needs, and while we have invested heavily in fire and rescue and our police, we need to do more, and we have a school overcrowding issue. So I'm here to keep working hard and to find common ground where it can be found, and looking forward to your vote.
Thank you. Steve McKay.
Okay, so thank you all for being here and thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. So, I thought about how I close this and let's try this. First of all, Danny, I did try to throw my card at you here. You're not the only first-time candidate.
But you're so good at this.
Thank you, Danny. So I would just say on November 6th, I really hope you'll favor me with your vote. And if you do vote for me, what are you going to get? I think first and foremost, you're going to get a professional. I got a 30-year career in the national security field. I've tended to keep my jobs and my contracts for a long time because I believe in the work ethic that I bring to my job, to ensure that my customer and my companies are successful. You're not going to get a politician, looking at this as a stepping stone. I like my day job. I view this as community service. It's something I feel very strongly about. That's why I did the things I did over the last 5 years. You're going to get a problem solver. I mean, if you learn anything about yourself over 55 years, I've learned that that's my trait. I'm a problem solver. I look at problems, I seek solutions, I seek the input from others, and then I try to, get the problem solved. Lastly, you're going to get a communicator. I mentioned earlier, that's what I've always thought. You're going to get a communicator who talks too much.
Councilmember Schmeling.
Thank you very much. Be quick. I'm passionate about my community. I've lived here for 46 years. I bought my childhood home for my parents, and I've been in since I was 5 years old, and I raised my 11 children there. Happy to say that my first grandchild lives 4 doors up from me. That's an exciting time. We have a lot of things happening here in Frederick County. I believe I've represented you well over the last 4 years. I have looked out for the community, I worked across the aisle and did the best I could for the entire community, not just for one particular area. District 2 includes a very diverse group of communities in Libertytown, Newmarket, Mount Airy, Urbana, Linganore, Kemptown, Green Valley. They all have different needs and expectations, and you have to balance those needs as a county councilman. I believe I've done that well, and I ask for your vote as a write-in candidate, and go to my website to learn everything that you can. Like it was said before, 90 seconds is too short to get in all the information on any one given question. That's TonyFor2.com. That's Tony, F-O-R, the number 2.com, and I appreciate you. If you got my name right, it's C-H-N-E-L-I-K. It's kind of tough, but I do appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lisa Jarosinski.
Good evening again. I just want to say that your vote does matter. I'm not afraid to work with others, and I think we need to be aware of other people in our community and other socioeconomic issues, and we need to be able to work together and listen to others and have some compassion. I believe that we all basically want the same thing. We want a job, we want to put food on the table, we want shelter, we want access to good health care when we need it in case we're sick for us and for our children, and we believe in education for our children. And that's basically what everybody wants. It's a human need, it's a human necessity, and we're all in this together, and I believe that we just need to work together, and that none of this stuff is rocket science. We don't agree, we'll figure out a way to find common ground and work together. And so your vote matters, and I hope that you'll, if you're in District 2, vote for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Will the at-large county council candidates please raise your hand? Okay, these are your at-large county council candidates. District 4, please raise your hand.
Two.
These are your District 4 county council candidates. District 2, your District 2 county council candidates. Mr. Bickle is your candidate for sheriff, and your county executive candidates here at the end. And Mr. Bickle will give you 1 minute to close out.
Yeah, like Danny, I sort of used up my material earlier. But I will let you know that I moved here to Frederick about in December, it'll be 38 years ago. That I raised 2 sons here. That one is a former Marine and currently a businessman in the Florida Keys. The other is a school teacher here in Frederick. I've enjoyed my time here in Frederick. That I've served in the community on the Human Relations Commission, the Substance Abuse Advisory Council, the Ethics Commission. I was chair of the Ethics Commission. That on the County Executive's Ethics Task Force. And I served with Steve and Lisa on the Rail Board, and currently served on the Land and Cultural Preservation Funds Board and the Advocates for the Aging of Frederick County. So I do look at the policing from a number of perspectives, not only the wide variety of things that I barely touched on in the beginning, but other things that I've done in the community. And my reason for running is to right the ship, so to speak, get our sheriff's office where it needs to be, build leaders within the organization, and hand it off to whoever's going to follow me.
Thank you. Delegate Afzali, closing remarks.
Well, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I know it's a long night, and I just want to thank you for being interested enough to come out on a rainy night to listen to all of us. I want to thank all the candidates. It's a lot for the families and for the spouses and children and so forth that kind of go through this, I guess it's almost like vaudeville. We show up, we perform, and then we go home night after night. But I just want to say that I am Kathy Afzali. I have been so honored to be your delegate representing Lake Linganore for the past 8 years in the state legislature. And I'm switching gears and I'm running for county executive. I have not been happy with the way that things have been going in Frederick County, and I'm not one to complain. I'm one to kind of roll up my sleeves and try to get things done. I have a unique experience, and that is that I think I may be the only person in Frederick County who's moving from the state level to the county level. So I bring a lot of skill set from having had that state experience. And so I want to ask for your vote tonight. I will serve you honorably. I will be all in to serve as your next county executive. Thank you.
Thank you. County Executive Gardner, closing remarks.
Thank you for being here this evening. I believe I am the best choice for county executive. I believe I'm the most qualified choice. I bring business experience and government experience. I really am the only candidate in this race who has managed hundreds of people, actually over 2,000, half a billion dollar budget, both on the operating side and capital side, and have really worked hard to protect taxpayers. Tax rates have stayed exactly the same as they were when we came into office, exactly the same as Governor Hogan. Property tax rates are the same, and income tax rates are the same. And I've saved county taxpayers $70 million by renegotiating some of the bad deals of the past, by ending privatization that cost us more, by earning that AAA bond rating through great management and budget, saving taxpayers about $13 million in interest by refinancing our debt. I bring proven leadership and proven results. We have accomplished a tremendous amount during this term, improving public education, building schools, managing growth, saving citizens in Montague. There's more to do. The county needs to continue to go in a good direction that we're going in, and I would ask for your vote on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming out. There's, I believe, some time to mingle, probably some snacks left in the back. Again, for our candidates, thank you all for bearing with us on the times.